Today we are ranking League One clubs by their realistic ceiling. I've already done this with the Championship. If you haven't seen that one, go and check it out. But let's get into this and discuss the criteria of how I'm going to be ranking these clubs. So I'm going to do it the same way that I did the Championship. And I'm going to do it across 4 different things. One is going to be infrastructure, the training ground, the stadium, what the club has currently. And remember, this whole video is currently. If, I don't know, Port Vale get taken over by Saudi trillionaires next week, this video, it's out of date at that point. So this is right now, right this second, right now. So infrastructure is 1. 2 is financial backing. How much does the owner put in? Are there going to be transfer fees to be able to build going forward? What does it look like? We're also going to do history as well, which I appreciate. The past is the past and all of that. But I do think it is important. If you have that status of previously being a big club, does that mean that you can get back there again? Well, it is going to be one of the criteria. And finally, we are going to go for, of course, the current manager, the current squad, assets they have, and just blend it all together and then spit out where I think they're going to be. So let's have a look at the categories. And by the way, League One, in my opinion, the most interesting version of this video idea, because League Two is coming. Bear with me on that. The Championship was interesting, but League One, there's so many big clubs in League One. Where's it all going to land? Let's get into the video. Yes, lads, welcome back to the channel. We've got another tier list. Once again, I absolutely love filming these. We're also in a different setting. You may have seen it from the intro there. Bear with me, still trying to make it look right. This is actually my little tester video as to sort of move things around. I've gone into a smaller room. I think it will be a bit better long term. But yeah, I'm going to be decorating it at the end of the season. So when I do that, I will show you all what that looks like. But anything that you notice where you think, what the hell is that? Or that could look better, let me know. But anyway, on to the tier list. So, categories that we have. We've got Premier League, clubs that can make it back to the big time. We've got Championship regular. I hate tier lists. I hate how they I don't know if you've ever done one. Basically, Championship, it just makes it look weird. So, Champ regular is going to be 1. We've then got yo-yo clubs, those clubs that go in between Championship, League One. A League One staple, and I think that's just a club, that are going to just sit in League One, happy to be there, and it's good for them. Or maybe a club that actually can't escape from League One. So if the video just randomly cuts, by the way, mid me talking, just know I've had a coughing fit and I've not put that in. I am unwell at the minute, but you know what? Still trooping on, still going. So League One staple, and then of course League Two bound. Now in the Championship edition, I had out the EFL. I'm going to be honest, none of these 24 clubs give me vibes where their ceiling is going to be out the EFL. No one's in that dire of a situation. Again, let me just rank them and let me know in the comments if there was a club that could be deemed out the EFL as the ceiling. But it's an interesting one nonetheless. So there are the categories. Here are the 24 teams. For some reason, Huddersfield came in twice, and on a tier list, I don't know how you delete one. So Huddersfield are in there twice. But yeah. Let's get into this. Up first, we have got Stevenage. So then for Stevenage then, it's going to be a League One staple. And the reason being, so it's around about 8k. I think the stadium holds. And the club is fan-owned. And when doing my research, looking into it, there's just so much that a club like that can grow. And so I genuinely think that they're going to struggle to break out. They may have a season, because we're talking sort of maybe the next 5 to 10 years, like the realistic ceiling based off what's happening today. There is a chance they could become a yo-yo club if they got a good set of players, but I just don't necessarily see it. I think they're always going to have the limitations, and a League One staple, it's good for a club like Stevenage where they're competing with so many big clubs around them, Arsenal, Tottenham, it's just a good place to be. And as I say, it's the fan ownership and the smaller stadium that just doesn't give them the oomph to be able to say, yes, definitely, we're going to put ourselves up there. And again, we've got AFC Wimbledon next, and they are also going to sit in League One staple. And it's quite a similar story to Stevenage. Of course, Phoenix Club, risen from the ashes. We all know what happened with MK Dons, etc. So a great achievement, in my opinion, for them to even be in League One. And I think there's no shame in saying that League One is the current ceiling. Again, community ownership. That is always going to limit you unless you're able to bring in a great academy players, or you're able to find bargains and change the recruitment style. Something that I don't necessarily see them doing, if I'm going to be honest. They've got a couple of good young players, and it doesn't really show me enough, though, to say they're going to drive on. And again, South London, you're competing with so many big clubs to get hold of these big players, and also trying to grow the actual brand itself. Of course, Wimbledon, the other Wimbledon that got sort of obviously deleted by MK Dons, they were in the Premier League, so there is the history there. I just don't necessarily see it with AFC Wimbledon. I can't see the players being able to come in to get them up there to even be that yo-yo club. But League One is still a great achievement. Who knows? If anything changes down the line, anything like that, maybe. As of right now, they're just a League One staple. Up next, then, we've got Wycombe. And I'm actually going to put them in League One staple as well, because I don't see it with them. But out of those three clubs there, you'd argue that maybe they've got the best chance of going up to a yo-yo club eventually, and just a team that goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. But I just think that they're limited slightly in terms of Adams Park. It's around 10k, I believe, which is not bad for the championship, but the way that the championship's going, there previously was a gap between the Prem and the championship, in my opinion, and that got bigger and bigger and bigger. And arguably the championship clubs, due to probably relegations and the quality of players in that league, that has now closed. In doing so, it means that League One has got further from the championship, and that's where I see the limitations with Wycombe. So ownership uncertainty that's gone on the past couple of years, is that a factor too? Maybe if they get the right backer in, the squad's not bad, but it's definitely not on the level to say, yep, those guys, they're going to the championship, and if they get there, they're staying there. So for me, League One as far as Wycombe go. Doncaster Rovers now then, and they are going to sit in League One staple. And again, I don't necessarily think they're League Two bound. I think they're going to stay in League One, stabilise. I think there's when I look at it, and I've had a look at the finances, I've had a look on certain accounts on Twitter that just give a detailed breakdown of where things are for this video. So I've actually put a lot of time into this. And when I look at Doncaster, there's no real signs to say, yep, money's going to be there, money's there to spend. And in League One, you can almost guarantee the way that everything goes these days is that the top 1 to 2 teams are going to have a serious amount of money to spend, or a fantastic squad from the championship when they've come down. So those places like Birmingham, like for example Cardiff this season, where you've either got a load of money being spent or a great squad, and that's going to really make it difficult for any of these teams in League One that don't have financial resources to go up and really create a challenge to become a yo-yo club. So if you're relying on the playoffs, like I'd argue that all 4 of these teams would be to go up, how sustainable is that? How often is that going to happen? I don't think very much. So Doncaster, in Yorkshire as well, the 2 Sheffield clubs are always going to dominate that, arguably Barnsley as well. So for me personally, another League One staple. I mean, at this rate, this is probably going to be the most popular category of where everyone lands, because there's nothing wrong with being a League One staple. Do you know what I mean? It's just, the championship is a different beast these days, and a lot of clubs are not going to be able to sustain it. Now then, we've got Mansfield Town, and you guessed it, they're also going to go in League One staple. Maybe I should have ordered these better. I just sort of bunched them all together. But yeah, anyway, it's a similar story. For Mansfield in particular, the One Call Stadium, I believe, is around that 10k mark again. So in terms of revenue, because revenue is such a big driver in terms of football and how it's ran these days, are they going to be able to make that jump to the championship? They're going to need to improve the stadium most likely, but they do have potential. They have potential. They've had recent seasons where they start well, fall off, start well, fall off. And so that sort of feeds into the fact that they are a League One staple. I can't see them getting relegated. I think they've got too much of a good infrastructure and a good squad and good planning to do that. So if I can't see them going up and I can't see them going down, they're just going to be a League One staple, like the majority of the teams that we've had, well, all of the teams, sorry, that we've had so far, just not quite there to take that push, even to become a yo-yo club. Now then, Burton Albion, Burton fans, strap yourselves in, because you're not a League One staple. It's, yeah. It's not looking good. It's not looking good, Burton. And I do think when you look at the ownership and the structure of it, I think that it's a well-run club, and I think it's sustainable. but it is certainly not financially in a position where I even think they'll achieve League One staple. I think Burton are destined for League Two, and I can see them staying there for a very long time. The Pirelli Stadium, I think it's around about 6,000 to 7,000 in terms of capacity, which for League Two is decent. For League One, it's just below average. It's below average, I'd say. And for Championship, dream on. They've had their time in the Championship, 2016, 17, 18, whenever it was. They had their time. It's gone. I think that was the ceiling that was ever going to be hit before. And now down here, I just don't see it. So Burton Albion down to League Two, don't have the financial means to get themselves up. If I put in another category of yo-yo club between these two divisions, maybe, but I'm not going to do that. I think that's trying to just go a bit too far. So they're going to be League Two bound, and they're going to be the first club that is going to be out of League One in terms of where I believe their ceiling is. Now then, Port Vale for quite the opposite to Burton Albion, really. So obviously, they've got Vale Park. That's around 20,000, which if I say they're going down to League Two based on the infrastructure, doesn't quite make sense. But if you look at the average attendances, it's sitting around the 6,000, 7,000 mark, which is just a similar level to what Burton Albion are realistically. So even though they've got the good infrastructure, I don't necessarily see it. I think they're a club in decline. Obviously, look at where they are now. Amazing cup run this year, don't get me wrong, but ultimately they are League Two bound. And when they get down there, are they going to have the means to push on and get out of there? I mean, maybe, and you just never know. If you do get a good set of players, a good run, and get promotion, are things going to change? Potentially, but as things stand currently with the ownership model in place, and I have seen a lot of people around the club have praised the ownership in terms of the community aspect and getting people involved in Port Vale. But I just think that Stoke are always going to be the biggest team in Stoke-on-Trent. So Port Vale always going to be hindered by that slightly. Yes, you can do well in the community, but it's all about on the pitch. It's all about how you invest in that squad. And I just don't see that investment being there long term for them to sustain it. So League Two bound, and it will be a shame because I like Port Vale, but I just can't see them getting up and staying even as a League One staple. Northampton up next, of course, play their games at Sixfield Stadium, around about 8k, maybe 7k, one of those two. And I've put them in League Two bound because I just can't see it. Look at the historical pattern of them. League One, League Two, bouncing between the divisions. So again, if there was a yo-yo club in between these two, maybe they would fall in that there, potentially. But I just don't think they've got the financial backing. I think there's other clubs that are in League Two. And bear in mind that if you look at sort of the non-league to League Two route, that is getting way more prominent. I mean, when was the last time you saw a club come up from the National League and actually get relegated back down to the National League? It doesn't happen very often because these clubs come up and they run a lot better. There's a lot of optimism. They're on a high. So I think with that, going down to League Two, there's always going to be clubs that are going to finish ahead of Northampton. So if the best route for them is the playoffs in League Two, I just think that that's too risky. So they're going to stay as League Two bound. But as I say, if you could make a yo-yo club in between, they would sit in that. But I just think that there's not enough going on at Northampton to justify them being a League One staple. Now then, Blackpool. So Blackpool are going to sit, I'm very torn on this one. They're going to sit in League One staple though. And the reason being, because obviously the stadium holds around 16, 17,000, which is very good. And that, you know, because unfortunately, as much as I hate to talk about finances and revenue, and I'm not an expert, by the way, I'm really not. I've just done a bit of research. But in terms of finances, revenue is so important for PSR. And look at what happens when PSR goes wrong. Leicester, West Brom, Sheffield Wednesday, all teams in the Championship that all could be relegated and points deductions being the reasons why. Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday would be down anyway, but West Brom and Leicester, they are down purely for points deductions, else they would be higher in the table. And we don't know about West Brom yet, as I filmed this video, but that's the case. So you've got to get it all right. And even though that Blackpool do have the decent stadium, I don't necessarily think the ownership is as where it needs to be financially in terms of backing to justify them going into that yo-yo club. And the reason I say that is because things have improved under new ownership in more recent times, but it's still behind a few clubs. So Blackpool are one of those ones that realistically, if I could, I'd sit them in the middle of those two. Because this isn't me saying that in the next 5 to 10 seasons, Blackpool couldn't get a promotion, but I don't think they can sustain going up, coming down and then going up again. I think if they do go up and come down, they're going to sit and they're going to plateau as a League One staple. Leyton Orient now then. Now, Leyton Orient for me, they're a club on the rise. But that doesn't necessarily mean to say that they're going to fall in the yo-yo category. So I'm going to keep them in League One staple. But they are a club on the rise. The ownership are getting things right off the pitch, in my opinion, and that will add to it. The stadium, it is a bit of a capper for them, though. If they are going to want to go on and push on and become a championship side or even just a yo-yo club that does end up going backwards and forwards, that would need to increase, in my opinion, because it's around 10k, which is not bad, but it is something that will halt you further down the line to becoming a championship regular. But the recruitment off the pitch as well looks quite good in terms of who they've brought in. You know, Don Ballard, probably a standout in that regard in terms of a player that's young in the squad. The model seems to be going in the right direction. So certainly in 5 to 10 years' time, if I randomly decided to come back and do this video again or review it and see where they are, which, you know, it's a long haul video, don't get me wrong, but maybe I'll do that. It would be very, very interesting to, one, see where they are, and two, see where I would actually rank them. Because they do have potential, but at the moment, they've got to sit where they are in League One staple. But Leyton Orient fans, let me know in the comments, what do you think on that? Do you think you could actually push higher? I'm keen to hear. Now then, Plymouth Argyle up next, and we are going to have our very first yo-yo club. Plymouth are going to sit there. Now, stadium-wise, infrastructure-wise, around 15 to 20k, it's somewhere in that region. So let me know in the comments exactly what that is, Plymouth fans. But that there is good enough to be a championship team or a yo-yo club that's going to do it. The problem that I have with Plymouth is the sustainability of being a championship regular. We saw them in the championship. They came back down. It is what it is. That's going to happen. That doesn't necessarily define them as a yo-yo club. The problem I've got is the financial backing. How much money is actually going to be spent for Plymouth and in driving the staff, the players, everything, facilities going forward? I question that. I believe it is a very much fan-orientated ownership from what I've read into, which is great and sustainable and it protects the club. But at the same time, does it actually limit the club and where it can go? Potentially. But also as well, geographical location. So how much can a club like Exeter, like Plymouth, grow? I don't know, it's arguably maybe similar to Norwich and Ipswich. How can they do? Look at Newcastle and Sunderland. They're, you know, very isolated in a sense, but they obviously have a huge fan base. I just don't know commercially how well they can do and keep on growing that can allow them to be there. So I like Plymouth. They've got a great set of fans, but is their cap really off the pitch? I think it is. So I'm going to stay with Yo-Yo Club. Now then, Lincoln City. Currently, top of League One, they're already promoted. They're arguably going to go, but they will. They are. They're going to be champions. So we've got the current champions of League One here. Now, where are they going to sit? They are going to sit in Yo-Yo Club for me. And I think that they are going to be limited by a couple of things. Now, everywhere that I read, sort of, you know, in terms of the plans for the future, this promotion will help things, but I think there's too much to do. So a 10,000 seater stadium, that's going to need to improve if you want to be a championship regular, because you're going to need the revenue. And there are examples like Bournemouth that have got a small stadium for where they are. It's not all about that, but it's very, very important in terms of sustaining that position. So that's the first thing. I think squad, manager, absolutely fine. You know, it's a squad that can grow. It's a squad that may cause a few surprises. But ultimately, if the investment doesn't follow that and the financial backing doesn't support that squad goes from, yeah, great, to, I don't know about this, you know. Are they going to be able to sustain and survive? So I've put them in Yo-Yo Club because I feel as though they've got a lot to do. And I think ultimately it's a fantastic achievement for Lincoln to get themselves to the championship. But they are going to come down in my, you know, maybe not next season, but the season after. How long can they sustain it? And then once they're in that cycle, similar to how Rotherham have been over the years, they're just the best example of the League One Yo-Yo Club. Are they going to fall into that? I think so. Now then, Barnsley up next. And they are also going to sit as a yo-yo club. Now, Oakwell is around 23 to 25,000 in terms of capacity, which is very, very solid for the championship. I think it's definitely good enough anyway. Now, the issue with Barnsley, because Barnsley have, in theory, been a bit of a yo-yo club over the last 10, 15 years. They've been in and out of the championship, never threatening really with League 2 relegation, and I think they're a little bit more than a League 1 staple. They just edge it over these clubs here. When you look at everything all in, you'd argue that Barnsley are on top of all of that, and so they're going to sit in yo-yo club. Now, Barnsley are a bit of a sleeping, I'm not going to call them giant, they're a sleeping, like, slightly larger 6'3", if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Giant, like 6'7", a sleeping giant. Yeah, that's maybe another club in this list. They're just like a sleeping like 6'2", 6'3". I hope that does make sense. But anyway, and the reason I say that is, again, I'm not sure about the ownership. A new model was brought in. Has it worked necessarily? There's obviously been some heavy losses for Barnsley over the years. So arguably, no. Do I look at Conor Hourihane as a man that can take them forward? Again, unfortunately, even as a Villa fan, I love Conor Hourihane, but no. So there's a lot of things that stop them from making that jump that would match the infrastructure of being a championship regular. There's a few things that hold them back. So they're definitely more than a League One staple, but they're definitely not quite championship sustainability, in my opinion. So then, up next is Bradford City. Obviously play their football at Valley Parade, 25,000 seater stadium. One of the best in League One, in my opinion. Love the stadium. But there is a lot of uncertainty around everything that's going on at Bradford. So everything changed. Ambition from the owners changed. They wanted to get promoted. And now look at what they've done in their first season in League One. It's been fantastic. The fact that they're in the playoffs, I mean, they might be a championship team come the end of May. Does anyone else not think that's absolutely insane? So on the pitch, cannot fault them. They've really given it a go, and the owner has actually backed them to do so. Off the pitch, now, this is where it's going to be interesting. So they are going to sit as a yo-yo club, because I think that is a very important aspect of it. But there is one or two things that Bradford need to get sorted in order to try and establish themselves as a championship regular, and more than just the yo-yo club. Because I need to see Bradford back in the championship. I tell you what, I'd love to see Bradford in the Premier League. I would absolutely love that. Bradford as a city, it's got a good market for it. I don't necessarily think it's currently getting everything it can. It's a one club city, really, so that can really help feed into things. But what I was referencing is 2028, the lease for Valley Parade is up. So the current ownership have got to negotiate a new deal to keep Valley Parade. Now, as a day job, I work in leases, so I'm very well sort of versed on this. And these things are not easy, and they cost a lot of money. So is Bradford's clear trajectory of a Wrexham-style build, where they've gone from League 2 and they're going up, is it actually being hindered as a championship regular? And are they going to be a yo-yo club because of these stadium issues? We're going to find out. And if they can get it sorted, I'm going to change what I say. So they're going to stay as a yo-yo club, because remember, we go off what's happening right now. If they get the stadium sorted and they come out of it with no scrapes or bruises, championship regular. But as I say, we're sticking where we are right now. But Bradford, a club that I very, very much like, and I really do hope we see them back, at least in the championship regularly once again. Now then, Luton Town. So Luton, if they were still, well, they are still playing at Kenilworth Road, but if Kenilworth Road was the only stadium in the plan, I would argue that the best it could be is League One staple, maybe yo-yo club. But the fact that we're seeing a new stadium, 25,000 seater stadium under construction, they're using that Premier League money, they're using the parachute payments, and they're actually investing in the club for the future. So they're easily going to sit as a League One staple. I mean, if you look at Jack Wilshere, the job that he's doing at Luton, I think that he's a good project manager. I really do believe Jack Wilshere has potential to go on to be a top English coach, certainly good enough for the Championship. And the fact they've just won a bit of silverware, very, very good times for Luton Town after some absolutely horrible times. Premier League was great fun. Getting relegated, it is what it is. Getting relegated from the Championship, that is just, I mean, that was a shock to a lot of people, and I feel as though for the fans that must have stung so much after the rise they'd done. But anyway, a yo-yo club, I think, is fair. Financially, they will be backed. The new stadium will help drive revenue. So they're getting everything in place to make that charge again, except this time they want to stay there. I don't necessarily think in the next 5 to 10 years they're going to be able to make that jump to championship regular, but certainly going up and down, building everything, building for the future, and maybe similar to a Leyton Orient, a club on the rise. Let's see in 10 years' time where they are. So then, Peterborough. Now, they are a very, very interesting one. So, stadium holds around about 15,000. So that puts them in the bracket of anywhere between this. Ambition off the pitch from the owners, that probably puts them into Yo-Yo Club. Squad and players, again, they're very much in between here, but I like what happens at Peterborough, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're clearly good at producing good players. There are so many examples of decent players that go to Peterborough and move on elsewhere. So the model works in a sense. But then also what I would say is that they've also got it wrong a couple of times. But that's fine. That's the risk that they take. As long as they don't get relegated, that was a real possibility at this, the first 10 games. I think everyone was saying Peterborough are done, myself included. What a turnaround it was. But regardless from that, in terms of ownership, Dara McAntony, I really struggle to say that, but regardless, he owns around 75% of Peterborough, and he is a very ambitious owner. Now, whether you love him or you hate him, whatever it is, you can't knock the guy. He puts himself out there. He has big plans. And Peterborough, growing population. Is he going to be able to capitalise on that market? I think he will be able to. Similar to Bradford, where again, increasing population, it's going to drive growth for the football club. And if it's run properly and they get it right, they certainly have possibility to become that Yo-Yo Club. I don't think they're a championship regular. I can't see them quite getting to there, but if they do get that recruitment right and they do drive themselves up, and they have done it right before, they drive themselves up, go into the championship, come back down, I can just see that being a regular pattern. But again, a club with a lot of potential if they get it right. Now then, Huddersfield Town, one of the two Huddersfield Town. Do we put them together? No, I think I'll just leave that one out. But anyway, Huddersfield, 25,000 seater stadium, very good in terms of the infrastructure side of things. History-wise, a decent sized club. They have been up there as well. Of course, they were also the side back in the 1920s to go back to back on Division 1 titles. Does that mean anything for this video? Probably not. But regardless, a fair achievement. So why do I think Huddersfield would be a yo-yo club more than a League One staple? It's actually what we've seen in the past 12 months. A clear sign of intent of investment. I mean, the fact that they went out so hard this summer. Lee Grant was a risk, but one that, fair play, you've got to take it. Look at the clubs that he's been at. Didn't quite work out. Leon Manning now coming in. So... And again, I know that there's a few, not issues, but of course he has his problems at the moment with his personal life, which is completely understandable. So when I look at it, next season, are Huddersfield, if they don't go up this season, I think the chances are pretty slim, but if they did go up this season, this doesn't matter. But if they don't go up, are they one of the favourites to go up next season? I think so. When they get up, could they sustain it? That's the bit I have an issue with. So the fact that they could go up, and I just don't necessarily see championship regular being on the cards. But yeah, the last 12 months have really shaped my opinion on Huddersfield, giving it a proper go. It had been underwhelming in League One for quite a bit of time now. It was always a bit of like, oh, they'll come back up, and oh, hang on a second, it's been 3 seasons now? Not quite good enough. So very interested to see what happens with Huddersfield, but right now, a yo-yo club, in my opinion, is fair. Can't really justify saying championship regular. I'm trying to keep this as realistic as possible. Now then, Reading, a very, very interesting one, and they're definitely more than League One staple. And I think that they're going to be the first club that I go for championship regular. Now, I think Reading, so first of all, geographically, I think it's a very, very interesting place in the UK. And I think there is so much growth to actually build the football club even more than it is. Because we're talking about when you get a bit of buzz behind it and you get, no, I'm not going to say, well, yeah, they're casuals. When the casuals start coming in and the touristy side of it, and you need that. But I think Reading with a 25k seater stadium, I think that will really, really help benefit them. So once they get to the championship, I think they'll be absolutely fine. New ownership, purchased everything. They got the training ground, they got the academy. There's been no talk about, it being downgraded or anything like that. So they've survived the takeover. They're now building upwards from where they were, which is important because the majority of ownership changes, they often go down a peg to go back up two. Well, Reading have started where they were. So let them go up two. And where does that leave them? Is a championship regular club, and they've got the history. They've been in the Premier League before. I genuinely feel very confident in the next maybe 3 to 4 seasons, we're going to see Reading sustain their position in the championship after getting promoted and then stay in there for the foreseeable. So Reading, a club with a lot of excitement right now. I absolutely despise the stadium name, the Select Car Leasing Stadium. So maybe sell that on again and get a nicer stadium name. Do nicer kits as well, because I thought the kits this year are awful. But apart from that, you're doing very well, and I think you're going to be a championship regular. Now then, Rotherham. And they're League Two bound. They are League Two bound. Even with 12,000-seater stadium, I don't necessarily think Rotherham... I think Rotherham are screwed, personally. And I think it's been coming for a while. At the start of the season, I predicted them in my season predictions. Go and check it. Go and check it out. But just cut me some slack if you go and watch it. Because my word. One of the first videos I ever filmed. It is absolutely a painful watch. I'm sat here like, so I think that Rotherham... So I've come a long way. I've come a long way. But regardless, Rotherham are in a bit of an issue. I think I put them to go down in the relegation places, and I genuinely don't think they're going to come back up for a long time. I'm going to read this out so I get it right, just to be 100% certain. So Rotherham, the debt for the club was £5.2 million for the year. And then in 2025, that has risen to £9.5 million of debt. The owners have had to take £550,000 of debt, turn it into equity in early 2026 just to stabilise the balance sheet. That tells a story in itself. Off the pitch, Rotherham is a complete and utter mess. And I really, really have a bad feeling it's going to go from bad to worse. Relegation is looming. They look as though they're already down now. They had a chance. They blew that chance. As far as I'm concerned, they are relegated. And I think they're going to stay there. A sad day for the club that a few seasons ago you'd have argued that that is the ceiling. Now I can't see them getting out of League Two. But Rotherham fans, you're a very interesting case. So please do let me know what you think in the comments. Is there a chance? Is there a world where Rotherham can climb back to the heights of being in the Championship in that Yo-Yo Club bracket? I don't think so, but let me know what you think in the comments. Now then, Exeter, a fan-run club. Where do I see them? They're in League Two bound as well. And it's a very difficult one for Exeter because I do genuinely like Exeter and Plymouth. I think they're great clubs. And obviously Plymouth, I think they're going to do a lot better than Exeter in this example here. But Exeter, there's a lot of things off the pitch that are going very wrong. So being a fan-ran club is great, but in 2026, is it sustainable? Is it something that can actually work? I don't think it is. I really, really don't. Football has become so commercial, so driven by money and revenue and just putting money into the club. And I really, really fear that Exeter are going to be one of those examples of an admirable story that just get left behind in the times. I really, really do. I mean, the Supporters Trust had to lend the club £600,000 in the last couple of months, I believe. That is damning in itself. That cannot go on. The stadium, it's not massive. It's decent for League Two. It's not massive, is it? I think when they go down, and I think it is a matter of when rather than if, I think when they go down, they will very much struggle to come up because there's just teams, as I've mentioned previously, the conference teams or the National League teams that come up and the League Two teams that are in there currently. I mean, who knows who's going to go up this year, but you've got Notts County, MK Dons, Salford, and many more, Cambridge, all of these clubs that are going to give it a proper go. Exeter, to me, are going to be left behind. And arguably, if there was an out the EFL tier, I think Exeter are the most likely candidate for it to be. But I'm not going to say that because I do believe the model is a very fair model and it suits League Two in terms of, the investment doesn't have to be quite on the level of League One. But I do fear it's a bad time for Exeter City. And it is a shame to say. Now then, Stockport County. We've just spoke about Exeter City and how it's looking so bleak. Stockport County, quite the opposite. What a journey they have had. Currently, the stadium has just had plans approved to go from 10 to 18,000. That is massive. That puts them where other clubs have been restricted by certain things. Stockport are solving that issue. They're also investing into the academy. So effectively, what they're doing is they're following the example of Manchester City. So they're investing in the academy. They want to have the best young players coming through at Stockport. They've also, the owner has put £21 million, with 11 million of the 21 coming this year alone. He has stated Premier League in 5 years' time. So they've got the ambition. They've got the arrogance in a good way. The arrogance in a good way to go on and say, yes, this is our plan. This is what we're going to do. But also, as I mentioned, the Manchester City model, he's invested in the academy. He's invested in a club in Hungary, DVCS, I believe they're called, or so it's 4 letters that are next to each other, and I believe DVSC is what it is. But anyway, regardless, what have we seen from Citigroup? The exact same thing. So I really, really like Stockport. Do I think they're going to become a Premier League team? No. Maybe. I don't know. Who am I to say no? Maybe. But I don't necessarily think that they're going to be a consistent Premier League team. Maybe in the future, if they keep going, a yo-yo club in between could work. But as of right now, Championship regular, but my word, off the pitch, on the pitch, there is so much to like about Stockport, and I really, really believe that they are going to become a Championship regular. Maybe even one of those teams that is a bit like a Millwall that have been fighting for the playoffs for a long time and eventually might have their day. But we'll have to see. But a big fan of what is going on at Stockport County. Now then, Wigan Athletic, they are going to sit in League One staple. The reason for this is even though they've got a 25k seater stadium, fantastic. They've got the history, and based on my criteria, that's 2 boxes ticked. You know, they've been in the Premier League, they've won the FA Cup, for God's sake. An unbelievable achievement for Wigan, even though they went down, regardless. But the issues that I've got, Wigan, the previous administrations, the fact the club is up for sale, apparently £10 million buys you Wigan Athletic. But is there a buyer out there? There should be a buyer out there because the market for Wigan, in my opinion, is good. But as things stand currently with the limbo that's going on, how can I put Wigan any higher than a League One staple? Because with the ownership where it is right now, they are not going to become anything more than a League One staple. At best, a playoff challenger. At best. So if that ownership changes, and maybe my example of Port Vale was actually bad, I should have used Wigan. If Wigan get taken over by Saudi billionaires, then yeah, this will change. And if it does change, they can become a Championship regular once again. But as things stand, that is not the case. The club is in limbo. It needs answers. It needs an ownership structure that is solid and concrete. When it gets that, let's talk. Until that point, League One staple. Now then, Cardiff City, they are going to be the first club that sit in Premier League. And Cardiff, in my opinion, are fully capable of going on and becoming a Premier League team once again. Now, in terms of the Welsh market, of course, Cardiff and Swansea and Wrexham, but Cardiff and Swansea are such big fish in that market. So any good Welsh young academy players, they go to Cardiff or Swansea, and in the future, I'm sure it'll be Wrexham. But regardless, that's a huge pool. In terms of the population of Wales, there is always going to be this divide between England and Wales, and that will boost the sort of attendances and really push commercially for Cardiff. The Welsh Football League in Wales is not anywhere near good enough or big enough to really bring in those audiences. So Cardiff are always going to have that big backing. It is a massive city, one of the biggest cities in Europe. And especially when it comes to a European city, it's a city that should be hosting European football, in my opinion. And I genuinely think that they've got a huge ceiling. Now, ownership-wise, is something that could hold them back. So they might actually sit in Championship regular, potentially, if they don't get it right. So eventually, the ownership currently, by the way, is one of those. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's not something to worry about, in my opinion. They'll go up to the Championship, they'll spend a bit of cash, and they'll stabilise. Now, if the owner sells, that's when it becomes interesting, because Cardiff are a sleeping giant. They're the 6'7", not the 6'3". They are the 6'7". Any owner that gets hold of Cardiff and invests properly can get them back in the Premier League, and that is a fact. So Cardiff, they've got a long way to go, but they are certainly one of the only league clubs, they're one of the only League One clubs that can get back to the Premier League. And finally, because Huddersfield are already in, Bolton Wanderers, and you best believe that Bolton Wanderers are going to sit at the top of the tree with Cardiff. They are a team that can become a Premier League club once again. The history is there. The stadium is there. Bearing in mind, they've just spent, well, they haven't spent it yet, but they're going to spend a fortune redeveloping the stadium, around the stadium, and really give the club a boost. One of the most exciting clubs, arguably along with Stockport, in League One at the moment. But I think Bolton can take it that extra step. They're a few years ahead of Stockport. Okay, do you know what? I haven't actually coughed in a long time. So the fact I've made it to the end of the video before I do that is good going from me, but I feel as though that might have started something. Anyway, Bolton, one of the most exciting clubs in League One. They've got so much to look forward to. Planning permission has been approved for that stadium plan, which is superb. They've been writing off losses. There's been a £30 million injection from the owner. There is so much going on at Bolton. They've got an amazing fan base. And when they do get promoted to the Championship, which even though I do like Bradford, I like Stockport, I would love to see Bolton go up this year with Cardiff and Lincoln, because I really think Bolton are going to give it a go. Do I think they'll go up and instantly get to the Premier League? Absolutely not. Will they stabilise for 3 or 4 years? Maybe not even 3 or 4 years. 2 to 3 years, yes, and then make the challenge. Go for it big time. And I would love to see Bolton back in the Premier League. So that is my list. The ceiling of all of the League One clubs. So in the comments, please let me know where you think your team should be. If you don't support any of these teams and you're a neutral, you know, I actually value your opinion a lot because it should be unbiased. So let me know where you would put these clubs. If it has, have I missed anything? Is anything I've said incorrect? Please do let me know if you are enjoying the content, guys. And honestly, recently the videos, I've been absolutely loving them. You guys have been giving so much support. So thank you so much for that. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button for me. We've got a big end of the season planned. I can't wait to bring you more content. As I said, the League 2 version of this, that is coming out very soon. So lads, appreciate every single one of you that watches. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.